Yeah. Thanks. I just wanted to address you were just talking about the septic field? Yeah. Okay. Is there some assurance that this won't affect groundwater?
Go ahead, keep going.
I just asked.
Ms. Lefke?
It is up to the on-site wastewater practitioner, who is a professional engineer in this case, to ensure that there is no health hazard. That is as per the BC septic regulations.
Okay. This is there's a significant amount of bedrock on that slope, is there not?
There is a considerable slope on the site, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, Ms. Lefke, I think you said bedrock.
I don't have specific data whether it is bedrock or other.
Just because it's outcroppings of rock there, I assume that is pretty close to bedrock. And I know there are crevices. I know in our old septic system by the lake, back in the day, many years ago, before I was born even, it was common practice to dump your waste in a hole, and it would just trickle down through the sand. Unless there was a crevice down there into which it could fall and just run into the lake. Is there any sort of, has there been any sort of testing to see if that's the case here?
Septic systems are under provincial jurisdiction. There is specific requirements that the on-site wastewater practitioner has to follow to meet those requirements.
Okay. Have we considered holding tanks?
Ms. Lefke?
The wastewater practitioner could consider that if they thought it was appropriate.
Okay. My understanding is that the folks living underneath this, well, I'll just read it. This historic drainage system is now called a stream by definition on our property, and we would be subject to RAPR for any new development. Yet 8840 is currently not. Under RAPR, ditches that connect via surface flow to fish habitat are considered streams. If we were to believe the biologist's report that a stream was evident 5 meters up from the culvert below 8840, that places the proposed septic field within the riparian area that extends from 5 meters above that culvert down to Okanagan Landing Road. Can you comment on that?
I can comment on the fact that we do have a report from a qualified registered professional and a qualified environmental professional saying that this property is not subject to the riparian areas regulations.
Okay, so I guess my last question, what further remedy can the people who live below this seek if they wanted to try to modify this once this is passed?
Ms. Lefke?
Can I ask for further clarification, please?
Sure.
What aspect are you wanting them to modify?
The septic field.
The septic field is under provincial jurisdiction, and that is up to the on-site wastewater practitioner to design an appropriate field.
Okay, so they would have to appeal to the province then if they wanted to.
Should Interior Health have such a provision, that would.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Quarry?
Thanks. Thank you, Kerry. Where's the nearest sanitary? Like just down the east side, the actual east side road? Like there isn't sanitary in the street there?
No, there's no sanitary in the side road.
Comes down out of Predator Ridge and then down onto Okanagan Landing Road. It isn't near this end of East Side Road, so I'll just put the mouse over top of. Basically, it comes down right through here and then goes down the road there. So it's not in this part of East Side Road at all.
Councillor Quarry, can I interrupt you for a second?
Yeah.
Is it possible to come down it appears to be a right-of-way between East Side Road and Landing Road and hook to the sanitary?
There are some right-of-ways, or sorry, easements that are in place for, I believe one of these, if not both of them, are for water services going up through to the properties up above. They would have to talk to these private property owners to acquire an easement to bring sanitary sewer up to the property.
Thank you. Sorry, go ahead, Councillor Quarry.
Okay. And then, like I visited the site below a couple of years ago when they were experiencing some pretty significant water coming through their property. But that is one of the conditions of this DVP, is to ensure that that's dealt with on site, correct?
That is correct. The post-development flow cannot be any greater than the pre-development flow, so they will need to accommodate all of their on-site drainage on-site. There is an additional recommendation within this report as well for them to design for stormwater management.
Because I think it's actually I think even the pre-development flows right now are causing some hardship for the people below. But I noticed that that's in there, so that's good. And I mean, I hate to keep coming back to the septic issue, but so I understand that it's a provincial function, but have we got the ability to recommend something to them, or is that just completely, because I do have I guess the pre-develop, I have a concern because you're actually adding more water to the already to the site. So do we consider that in our pre versus post? Like, do we take that septic calculation into our pre and post development runoff? I don't think we do.
Mr. Stranks?
Your worship, no, that's completely independent from the drainage.
Because one is surface drainage and one is water, is below subgrade, right? So do we have any ability, Kerry, to make a recommendation or
We have, your worship, we have a policy with regards to the city's involvement as far as when septic fields are permitted. And I believe there's a cutoff of, I think it's 5% or $10,000 is, my understanding is the cutoff for that.
Can you explain that, Mr. Stranks? What do you mean? 5% of what?
If it's less than that, then they would be required to. The cost of extending the sanitary sewer will not be more than the greater of 5% of the total value of the project or $10,000.
I think you misunderstood me, sorry. Do we have the ability? No, I totally get it that they're permitted, that the site is permitted to have septic field. But do we have any opportunity to communicate with the province about some concern around it? Because what's happening is I've seen the water running down that. I've seen that water running, and I know, and it is certainly is a concern for me. Also, I know that we're adding additional water through because all of the septic is, I mean, all that volume of water is going into the ground there, and that doesn't get considered in our pre and our post development runoff. Right, so that's my concern.
My understanding is that we do not have the opportunity to influence the interior health approval process, or it is up to the on-site wastewater practitioner.
Okay.
If council had concerns, perhaps they could register that with a wastewater practitioner that is designing the system, but I don't believe that there is a formal process for us to do so.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question. What do we do for monitoring both surface and subsurface water when it moves from one property to another? What do we do, or what does the current landowner then do?
It is possible to put in ground monitoring wells. We do not require that. Individuals can if they choose to, but it's not a city requirement. We actually have a policy that says we don't get involved in groundwater.
However, with this particular variance application, one of the recommendations, and I will read it out here, is that a qualified environmental professional and a qualified professional engineer must be retained by the owner for the duration of construction on the subject property to ensure ongoing monitoring and, where necessary, the implementation of mitigation measures for environmental and drainage features. The monitoring schedule and monitoring reports must be submitted to the city for review and approval prior to issuance of a building permit.
Thank you. Councilor Munt?
Thank you, Worship. It says here we're gonna vary it from no construction of a building, structure, or swimming pool to construction of a single-family dwelling and associated structures. Does that associated structures means there's gonna be a swimming pool?
No, it was worded to say associated structures to include what's shown on this development plan specifically.
Sorry, I missed the answer. Can you repeat the answer, please?
The wording of this was so that it was the single family dwelling and associated structures that are shown on the site plan specifically shown with this variance application,
Thank you.
not to include a swimming pool for clarity.
Thank you. All right, no more questions, and I'll move to the public input. So,
Just a reminder, Your Worship, we have received 2 written submissions, a letter from Carolyn Padaki dated November 20th and an email from Inga Friesen dated November 23rd, and council has those.
all right, so we'll open up public input for variance permit application 00423 for 8840 East Side Road. So I'm calling for a first time public presentations.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am John Friesen. I live at 8830 Okanagan Landing Road. I'm a registered professional forester, and have spent more than 25 years in the forest industry working on forest land management in the Okanagan and the Shuswap. Your Honor, may I request your permission to distribute a map and some photos to help me illustrate some of my concerns?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
So since 2014, I've been very concerned about the steep slopes and drainage on the property above us. That is the property at 8840. And this map I have before you here shows what was just shown up there by the geotech, the proposed residential location and septic field. It also shows the culvert that is mentioned in the environmental specialist's report, as well as concerns that we have with this culvert, and then the non-draining ditch that goes beyond that and floods East Side Road on a seasonal basis. So I wanted to thank Kerry for involving the qualified environmental professionals and the qualified professional engineer for the construction of anything that takes place here. I think that's very necessary. I'd like to also say that in July of 2019, I met with the geotechnical engineer and property owner to express my concerns about the drainage and my observations of trees in the above and proposed building site on 8840. I pointed out jackstrawed trees, which are trees tilted in various directions, and curved or sweeping trees, which all indicate slope instability. Therefore, I do not agree with the geotechnical report that trees were noted to be straight, indicating good stability in its presently vegetated state. I also mentioned that red osier dogwood in the natural drainage pattern is an indicator of very moist to wet soils. And that natural drainage pattern I have drawn on there with that black dashed line. I also showed the engineer the water course on our property that flows from the culvert that diverts water from the ditch above 8842 and 8854. And that is also shown on this map. You can see the culvert and then the seasonal stream that exits below that culvert. This is the culvert referred to in the biologist's letter dated August 1st, 2019. From this culvert, a stream runs down our property and flows directly into Okanagan Lake. The proposed septic field at 8840 is less than 20 meters from this stream and approximately 12 meters from the intake of the culvert. We now manage a stream on our property We've now managed it for the last 5 of 6 years. These flows completely directed with the amount of precipitation, these flows correlate directly with the amount of precipitation received from January through April. In 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, and 2018, precipitation totaled more than 100 millimeters. And we observed the stream running at 20 to 50 gallons per minute for 8 to 13 weeks during the spring. Only 69 millimeters was recorded in 2019. So this year we saw no water. We saw water in the ditch, but did not have any water on our property. We did have a lot of ground infiltration, but we did see it exiting onto the road below us. Our soils remained oversaturated. From 2011 to through 2019, average precipitation was 138 millimeters. That's from Vernon Stats. So this doesn't only happen when there's a lot of water, it happens on average years. The capacity of this historic drainage system was no doubt impacted by development at 8824, which is also on this map. When they put more than 1,000 loads of fill on top of a nice permeable wildlife sanctuary and trees and lawns. The proposed runoff ditch and drainage trench, as shown on the map at 8840, will redirect more flow from the natural drainage pattern towards the non-draining section of the ditch below 8840. There is no existing culvert to manage this flow under the cul-de-sac. Flows redirected from 8840 will only worsen this public safety hazard on East Side Road and Okanagan Landing Road. This also directs more water towards our home at 8830 as well as 8824 and 8818. We recommend that you do not approve this application for a development variance as proposed, as it will only make matters worse for already impacted downslope properties. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody
Questions?
have any questions for Mr. Friesen? Councilor Waring?
You'll get your turn. John, thanks. So you had Brian Guy come out and have a look,
We did.
and is he going to be providing a report?
No. We could. He
I mean, you see, like, if he was shocked and horrified, then
He was upset with the potential negative impacts of the septic field that close to our property. The groundwater flow through that. It is bedrock, fractured bedrock that this property is on with lacustrine soils on top of it, which are fine textured, silty, clay soils.
so other than the septic field, but that's your primary concern with the development?
And also the non-draining ditch that is above our property and the inadequate city drainage.
No, I've seen that. I've seen that non-draining ditch with my own eyes, and it's not draining. But I'm not sure how a house on there will actually make that. It might actually make the
It's
ditch.
not the house that we're not concerned about the development of the house. The septic field.
The septic. Okay, that's what I wanted to make clear. Okay.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
No, thank you.